Hello everyone, Paraskeria. I'm Mr. Smith. It's Friday and today we are going to be looking at the 5 beatboxing sounds of the Georgian alphabet. We've already looked at the vowel sounds, but today we're going to take a look at the hard sounds b, t, k, t, ch. We're going to look on how to produce them orally and acoustically, as well as manually, with some useful examples that are appropriate to the A1 level. And hopefully by the end of the video, you're going to understand not only how to do it, but why being precise with these letters is so important to your development of the Georgian language. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay, so let's begin. The first thing to say, of course, is that there is no such thing as beatboxing sounds. It's just something that I say to make it easier, because that's kind of the eureka moment that I had when I suddenly realized that as a native English speaker, I already made these sounds when I was a kid. I would do some like beatboxing, thinking I was a beatboxer, like just, I don't know, I just experimented with my voice. I remember when I was young, when you try to get the attention of a dog, you go like, or if you say no, don't do that, you know, like. We have already produced these sounds and we just need to remember that they are producible. Try imagining, explaining to somebody to do, these are the Georgian ones. Pa, 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 ta, 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 ka, 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 and ka, ka, ka. Followed by the affricates, which are a little bit more flowy, tss, tss, and ch, ch, tss, 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 ch, ch, ch. So if you could get your head around the fact that it's not actually such a big departure for you to use these sounds, the only thing I have to say is, of course, number 6 lives in its own little world. And that's why it was omitted from my introduction, because personally, no beatboxer on earth makes this sound. You're not going to try to gag on your own tongue to be a beatboxer. There's nothing you can do. But it is the 6th sound. We are going to look at it, but like I said, I want to look at it separately because it is true that this doesn't really exist in the English language, and so you're going to have to make an extra effort on it. But if you can take a look at numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and recognize that all you need to do is make sure that these sounds are deliberate, intentional, and informative. P, t, k, ka. If you're already practicing those sounds and you can hear them, then you're off to a great start. I'd like to give us an example today with a word that we already know, in English, practical. We're talking about practical tips in an English accent. Now the Georgian word is πρακτικούλη, ejectives. Now πρακτικούλη and practical, not that different. Of course, the only difference are the ejectives and the ending. But I want to say that actually you already have a head start, and this is how I want to explain it. If you use a Welsh accent just for fun, or you're aware of the diverse accents in the UK, what makes a Welsh accent distinctive is the extra emphasis we put on the sounds. So, practical tips in an English accent becomes practical tips in a Welsh accent, in a sing-song manner. Practical tips in an English accent, practical tips with a Welsh accent, in a sing-song manner. Now, I'm not saying that because I particularly love using the Welsh accent. I am from Wales, I was born in Wales, and so this is the accent, quite a strong accent in Wales that I grew up listening to. But of course my accent for work modified more to a standard British English accent because it was simply better for me overall as an English teacher. Now, that doesn't mean that I've forgotten that I'm from Wales and that I love the Welsh R. What makes the Welsh accent so distinctive, practical, is pretty much a head start on πρακτικούλη. Indeed, the R in the Welsh accent and the R in Georgian, I don't see any difference at all. So πρακτικούλη is a word that contains 3 of our sounds. And I think if you just let it sit in your mind, then you can already see that this is totally achievable for you, on the condition that you're making the extra effort to make these sounds impact. Πρακτικούλη. Say it a few times. This word, of course, being so similar to the English word, I chose because of that very reason. And I really hope that the following examples will be a little bit easier with this introduction. This is the k letter of the alphabet. It's composed by beginning in the middle line. You do a half circle, followed by another half circle, and it curls up. Of course, the second half circle is longer, but it's not a round circle. If you can write that, and in fact you might want to put it even more straight, then you've got the right one. Here we've got sok'o, which is mushroom. It's also the name of my friend's dog. And ku, which is a turtle. The next is p. P is formed by much more of a complete circle shape, very much like the A, the entry point, and then the connecting point on the main line. It curves in a similar way and terminates diagonally in the top left corner. This one's quite a pretty one to write. Doesn't take long to get used to. Just pay attention to the fact that the G goes down and the P goes up. Here we have pepela. Pepela is butterfly. And then spillo. Spillo is elephant. Spillo. Spillo. And pepela. Pepela. Okay, moving on to the next characters. Deda. Deda is an interesting character because it occupies every square available. It's quite narrow, although it does look quite fat. Its entry point, the exit point is behind the entry point. So you're going to have to do 8 in reverse. Looks very much like an 8, a very neat 8, almost like an hourglass or a Mobius sign that curves right to the bottom and then back behind where you started. This one's really tricky. But the examples that they gave you are kata, kata, cat, and putkari, which is a bee. We're not really going to focus too much on this vocabulary today, but it's just available there if you are doing this slowly, step by step. Those are the words that we're looking at. Tsa. Tsa is very much like a bee. In fact, it looks almost like a music note. It goes up into these 2 arches, which are then formed within the narrow space of 2 lines. It's what I can consider to be a tall letter. The examples that they gave you are zero. Zero is a crane. We associate it with the delivery of babies in Britain. And tsitsila. Tsitsila is a chick. And it's going to be something which you're going to remember because it's the homework. I'm going to suggest a small video where tsitsila is looking for its deda and it's talking to the other animals to discern where its mother's gone. The link's going to be at the end of the video and I would like you to watch it because you must immerse yourself, at least in Georgian, at this level. And tsitsila in this video is said a bajillion times. So you get yourself really accustomed to listening to Georgian, even if you barely understand it. Tsitsila, you're going to hear. And now we're getting to the last 2. We've got the ch and the kha. Ch is composed of a line in the middle. It has quite a decent size hook. And then in the middle line, where most of the calligraphy takes place, we draw this little bow. Maybe it's a fish. So straight line, curve, little fish. Ჭიქა, ჭიქა. It's glass. Glass of water. Ჭaჭa is the strong distilled alcohol that they sell in Georgia. It's like vodka made from grapes. Rakia here in Central Europe. Schnapps in Vienna, specifically in Austria. It's a strong distilled alcohol. Ჭaჭa. If you like it, try it. Don't say cha-cha. You know, as I mentioned, making these sounds deliberate and intentional makes them sound more beautiful. Think back to the class that I gave last week, where I said to look at the verb ჭάμα, to eat. And the reason for that was basically to confess that one of my Georgian friends finally told me that I was saying it incorrectly. I'd associated the word ჭάμα with chew and lunch, and I didn't say it correctly. And it robbed me of my fluency a bit. And then I accepted I was saying it wrong. And in fact, sachmeling, the word that I use to describe cooking, to eat with your friends and smile and chew, was a way for me to remember that the difference between ch and ch was so vital that I needed to force it into my mouth so that I didn't get it wrong. And such an interesting verb to force into your mouth, and it means to eat. So I hope that you can learn from my lesson and just understand that the emphasis really is there for a reason. And now we get to the letter you've all been waiting for, ch. Now, ch is so key, and it's the last one for today's lesson. We're going to begin with the calligraphy first. It's in the middle line, as most of them are. It drops into the lower elongated line. We have a similar loop to the one above as we do the one below. Looks very much like an English Y, but what do you notice? It looks quite barbed. This looks like a very effective fly fishing hook. If you go fishing, this looks like a pretty good hook. If that sticks in you, it's going to stick in forever. If that went down your throat, you wouldn't be able to get it out. If you were a fish, it's hooked right back in your throat. If you took the bait, now isn't that an interesting coincidence? That's my rather unorthodox way of thinking about this character, its production written and its production orally. I feel that it's got that hooked feeling to it. There's another thing I also think about, which is completely out of the ordinary, but like a zombie movie, or when you wake up in the morning and you're like, and you can't be bothered to get up, or you're like the living dead, and deep in the back of your throat is where that sound is being made. It's not a word. So it has to be ejective. That's going to lead us to the word frog. Frogs croak, right? We know they croak. Ba-cha-chi. Ba-cha-chi. Ba-cha-chi is a frog. Cha-cha-cho. Cha-cha-cho. Cha-cha-cho is poppy. You will have to try with these. The word I've used, a very common word to get right, is tzchali, which is water. That's more frequent than frog and cha-cha-cho. But as you can see, follow my tip. Think about that hook. Think about it really sticking to the back of your throat, and you really want to... What else? That's it. We have done it. We are now 1/3 of our way through the Georgian alphabet, and the momentum isn't slowing down. Next week, I just want to go through our notes. I'm not introducing anything new to the course. I will say, though, The video that I suggested, the link is written in the description below. I couldn't actually figure out how to stick it around the box. So just look for it, Google it and have a listen. Thank you so much for your time. It's wonderful working with you. Have a nice weekend.